see this debate in the chat between a couple of our listeners, watchers, talking about taking it one game at a time. And I think there is a misconception at times that teams overlook other teams. But, you know, when you look at individuals on the football field, we saw it last week with Riley Moss at cornerback. I thought, and I had said it after the game, I thought Iowa kind of got a little, or at least Riley got a little bit complacent. And here's a guy who was National Defensive Player of the Week 1 against Indiana, played well week 2 against Iowa State, and then got caught with his hand in the cookie jar last week and got burned on a couple plays. So if you're looking from a quarterback perspective, how much faith is there in the quarterback position right now for the Rams? Is it in a position, because I think Kent State, for at least where Kent State is in the MAC, there's a lot of confidence around whatever that kid's name is now. I can't remember it, but where is Colorado State right now at quarterback?
Yeah, very. They're both set in who they're rolling with, but it's very unstable as far as production. Todd Centeio, he's a Temple transfer. He won the job last year going into week 1, and then quickly lost the job to Patrick O'Brien, who has now transferred out to Washington, where he's a backup. Centeio's a guy. He's a decent runner. They have to be cautious in how much they run. I'll get into that in a minute. Throwing the ball, he just struggles. I mean, he was under 50% last year. He has improved this year. I would say he's a pretty good thrower in the short game, but he keeps missing. They've had some, wide open deep balls that could have changed some of their games that he's missed there. So he's just too inconsistent right now. He's a great kid, really likable guy. His teammates seem to love him, but just too inconsistent right now. And especially, Dante Wright, Colorado State's top receiver, probably won't play. That's really hurting them. So they're limited in options, and Centeio is, like I say, just inconsistent. So that's one of the reasons, or the main reason I've said that Colorado State just can't hang in a shootout type of game, whether it's Iowa or anyone else. They just don't have the explosiveness in the passing game to do that. So Centeio is the guy. He'll be number 1 all year barring injury, but there are definitely some inconsistencies that need to be worked out.
I'm curious about fan base. We talked a little bit about expectations, but how much of course, COVID has affected everything, but how well do Colorado State fans travel? Should we expect to see a strip of green on Saturday in Kinnick?
Yeah, I think there will be a decent one. So generally speaking, Colorado State fans, there's a pretty good little traveling base that, they pick kind of one road game a year to make, the marquee trip where them and their buddies all go. And this year, Iowa is clearly the top one. So obviously, some families and stuff, but I think you're going to have a pretty solid number of, green-clad fans there. I keep hearing from people. I've heard from a lot of people that are going out there. So I'm not sure I can put a number on it because it's hard, for people, to know people traveling from other parts of the country. But like when CSU went to Florida, when CSU went to Alabama, there were, legitimate chunks of fans for the Rams there. So I think you'll see that again at Kinnick.
Mark Rogers is killing me. He says, I give Iowa the edge over Georgia, Penn State, and Oregon based on dominance of victories. Not something Iowa fans should want to hear out of the pundits, but it is true. Iowa has not, and that is one thing that worries me, Kevin, about this, that not necessarily this game specifically, but just moving forward for the Hawkeyes, we have not seen Iowa win close games. And if Iowa is going to have a year like they had in 2009, for example, or 2015, where you have an opportunity to go to a New Year's Six Bowl or have a chance to maybe go to the playoff, you have to be able to win close games. So, again, I go back to what Kent State, they were in an opportunity. They were in a position, and you look at the score, and it looks rather lopsided at 30-7, but they were in a position midway through that third quarter to force Iowa into a close game. And the fact of the matter is we don't know, as Mark brings out here, Iowa has been basically dominant, if you want to call it that. But the problem is you get into a close game, I really don't know how much faith Iowa fans, or the coaches, for that matter, have in Iowa's offense able to actually go win a game. And so if you're Colorado State's defense, I think it's going to be fascinating to see. Spencer Petras has played clean this year, hasn't thrown a pick, hasn't fumbled a football, nearly threw a pick last week, got away with one. But I wouldn't be surprised to see, I don't know how much Colorado State blitzes, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them take some shots and put him in difficult position, because he's still not comfortable. I know we want to fool ourselves and say, oh, he's going to be fine as Iowa fans. he is clearly not where he needs to be at this point for Iowa to be a top 5 team. The defense has been dominant. Spencer doesn't seem to always go through his progressions. I know we've beat this horse to death in Iowa, but that he just doesn't. And so if Colorado State can be in a position where you can make him make difficult decisions, the guy panics. I mean, he really does. I mean, even simple throws, you can tell he's a confident guy, but he also once he has a kind of a bad thought into his head, it just seems like he tends to make decisions that are really lack foresight, if you will. So is Colorado State, in your opinion, a team that can get into the backfield and actually make him make those tough throws?
Yeah, they're an aggressive attacking defense. They like to bring numbers, and like I've said, their front seven is their strength anyway. So yeah, they're going to absolutely be doing that, bringing numbers and kind of just gambling that they can cause disruption in the backfield and shut down Iowa's offense that way, rather than kind of trying to play it straight up, hat on a hat, so to speak, that type of thing. So yeah, I think Colorado State will be aggressive and really try and attack this offense and see if they can get in the backfield and cause some mayhem there. I think that's their best chance to get some things done defensively.
And I don't have this stat in front of me. I see a question here from Michael Wheatley, who I know Michael, if I recall, is a big Maryland fan. He asks, what's Iowa's FBS ranks for offense? I don't know, because I haven't looked at it since the Kent State win. And again, Iowa ran the ball better last week. But Kevin, if you didn't know this, after 2 weeks into the season, Iowa ranked dead last amongst Power 5 teams in total offense.
Yeah, it's fascinating. If you look at the offensive numbers, I've been kind of checking them out heading into the game, and nothing there jumps out at you. You're looking at the offensive numbers saying, what is this? This is a top 5 team? And as you've talked about, there are some issues there offensively, but I think the defense plays a role in that too. When you're scoring on defense, that limits opportunities on offense, and it also limits the need to really be aggressive on offense. So it's one of those weird things that the numbers definitely don't jump out at you as like, oh my gosh, look at this offense or anything. But they're probably deceptive a little bit, I would say, especially if you're looking at it from a Colorado State perspective. But yeah, we're talking 2 different levels here too. There's the what you need to do to beat Colorado State level, and the what you need to do to go undefeated and make the college football playoff level. And those are probably 2 fairly different conversations on where Iowa will need to land offensively.
And so Iowa's wide receivers on Saturday, we haven't really seen a whole lot from anybody really besides Charlie Jones and Tyrone Tracy. We saw Nico Reganey make a deep catch on a pump fake and a go route, really. And it was a big gain for Iowa, and just like a huge sigh of relief you could feel in that stadium, because there were some fans, and Don Patterson was there, and he talked about it after the game. There were fans who, I don't want to say they were starting to turn on Spencer, but this is where we are with Spencer Petras at quarterback here, Kevin, is you got a quarterback who has won 9 straight games. Okay. Now, as Don points out, as a former coach, he does believe, and I agree with him, that oftentimes a quarterback takes too much blame, and he also takes too much credit for wins and losses. But I mean, we're talking, again, 9 straight wins. Iowa hasn't lost since week 2 and last year when they blew a 17-0 lead against Northwestern, a game they absolutely should have won. Probably should have beaten Purdue week 1 had it not been for a couple of fumbles. And again, that's part of the game. But he has not lost since then. And yet Iowa fans, not all of them, but a lot of Iowa fans are kind of fed up with it. Is that a problem that Colorado State fans would like to have at this point?
Yeah, having a quarterback that's won 9 straight games and you're not fully thrilled. There are a lot of teams in the country that I think would love to have that issue. So I do get it in a lot of ways, but it's one of those perception rules everything. In Iowa fan seat, I can see why you're looking at that, but there are a lot of schools that would love to have that problem. So it's all about how you're looking at it.
All right, so I'm going to post this graphic up for people, and just so people are aware of where Iowa ranks in the FBS in total offense. And again, this is for the FBS, which I believe 130 teams. in the FBS. If I'm wrong, somebody let me know. But I'm going to pop this graphic up here. This is not good, and this is after a win against Kent State. So they rank 119 out of 130. So, that's not good. And I think a lot of Iowa fans said, well, it's these first 2 weeks, it's opponent. You're not going to get, no offense to Colorado State, but you're not going to get any better opportunities to inflate your numbers than Kent State and Colorado State. That's just the reality of it. And it wasn't really helped last week. So, again, I don't want to be like an alarmist, and I know I've probably been accused too much of pumping the brakes on this team, but Iowa's got to show something in the passing game this week. This is going to be, and I'll talk about it if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, From the Hawkeye of the Storm on YouTube. Go ahead and go over there if you're an Iowa fan and get coverage throughout the week leading up to this game. But Iowa's got to show something offensively, because if you go into Penn State, well, even Maryland, I mean, you get a short prep week for Maryland. And that's the one thing I don't think players are doing this, but you don't want to be in a bad spot of looking at, okay, we've got a short week ahead for Maryland, so we forget what we have on Saturday. And again, I don't think Iowa players are doing that. Certainly coaches won't be doing that. But again, this is not a very good offense. In fact, just scrolling through the numbers here, Iowa is they're second from Colorado and Kansas are both behind Iowa in total offense. So Colorado and Kansas, of course, Kansas, that's to even be in the same conversation as Kansas in a football conversation is not good. And then what we saw from Colorado last week, and then of course they didn't score. I mean, they were in that game against Texas A&M, but they didn't put points up. It's just a real concern. I say the same thing I said about Iowa basketball, kind of flip it around with Iowa not being able to play defense in hoops. You're not going to be able to sustain success. You're going to get beat by somebody you shouldn't get beat by, and whether that's Colorado State, I wouldn't think it would not be, but whether it's Colorado State or Maryland or somebody's going to get you. And Iowa fans, this is not a game you want to look past on the schedule.